want both when you grow up. Because there's going to be a time in life when you fall down and everybody around you ain't going to go, oh, you okay? They're going to trample you. So you want to learn both. So if I'm a little mean sometimes, welcome to planet Earth. That's a you problem if you've not been on planet Earth and you think that you're entitled to everybody always being nice to you. Well, you guys ain't always nice to me. I asked everybody to show up on time. If you ain't on time, why not? It's called tit for tat. By the way, if you want to know the world's best scientifically way to treat people, it's this. It's been done with millions of hours, units of the top scientists' brains trying to crack how game theory works. Millions. You ever seen that movie, A Beautiful Mind, with Nash? He pioneered this. And they've done huge contests where the world scientists have tried to come up with a better thing. This is the best one in almost every situation. You start out nice to everyone you meet, and then you reciprocate. So, I meet Matt for the first time. Do not be an a-hole the first time you meet somebody, because you might be meeting Don Corleone, and you don't know it. I was in Prague one time with this guy who turned out to be complicated story. I don't know what he did. Some of those Eastern European countries at the time I was there had a lot of shady stuff going on. But we hung out at this, we went to Moravia, I think it's called. It's really far out place from Czech Republic, from Prague. We go there, and there everybody dresses cat. Everyone wears polo shirts, you know, like kind of like what you're wearing is like, was dressy, formal. So we hang out with this dude, and I had this guy who I thought was a guide, but he turned out he's a bodyguard for people. That my friend, when I went to Prague, was like, hang out with my friend Daniel. And it turns out this dude basically protects people from getting killed by the mob that goes to Eastern Europe to do mob-like deals. Of course, I wasn't there to do the mob, so I got stuck with this guy, but it was very interesting. So we're in this little town, and there was a guy like you, it was three of us, and he just looked like an ordinary dude, and we're eating and da-da-da-da-da. And at the end of the night, Danny goes, oh, I forgot to tell you, that's the number 2 most powerful mafia man in Eastern Europe. His dad is the number 1 Russian mafia guy. And he goes, he's in line to inherit it. And he said, but I think he's gonna be dead in 1 year, Todd. I said, why? He's like, people in the mob don't like him, and there's hits on him right now. And I'm like, he's just treating them, it was just like an ordinary thing. So I didn't know who I was dealing with. So thank God I wasn't an arrogant American, because you wouldn't want to mess with the Russian mob, Albanian mob, all those kind of guys. So you always start out nice. This is what the computer modules say. You start out nice. Then you reciprocate. So if you start out nice and he's nice back, then it's tit for tat. You be nice. And he's nice. And now when he turns a-hole to you, then you reciprocate. It doesn't have to be exact same thing, but you reciprocate a-hole. But there's one caveat to it. The computer models that allow for some level of forgiveness win. So he's an a-hole to me, and I'm like, whoa, dude, what the fuck's wrong with you? Okay? Now I'm calling him out, kind of being an a-hole back. If he goes, oh, my bad, I'm having a bad day, then these are computer modules, simulations, say you should forgive and go back to the start where you're starting out nice again. Does that make sense? What you don't want to do is start out mean. There's certain exceptions. If you go to environments that have high levels of there's cheaters and suckers, you don't want to be a cheater or a sucker. If you go to prison, for example, where it's high levels of people who are aggressive and cheaters, they sometimes say the computer models you start out mean and then you reciprocate. You know how like when you go to prison, you always see these things where it's like you walk in, you want to act tough so people don't pick on you. The computer simulations have found that to be true.
Pick a fight with the toughest guy.
Yeah, you pick a fight with the toughest dude, then everyone leaves you alone. But we are not most of your life, you will not be around high levels of cheaters. Society doesn't congregate high levels of, not ghetto, but dangerous people. So for the most part, that is it. So if you see me mean, it's because I'm perceiving what you're doing as disrespecting me. And it's entitled to think that you can be disrespectful and then people won't be disrespectful back. Why not? I want to live in a world like that, you know? You'll have better relationships. And what this computer model says is this is the key to a good marriage. They've done it. Very extensive studies on people who forgive too many times somebody who cheats on them. They have worse qualities of life. So, we're married, okay? We start out nice. Mac cheats on me. I say, I then get mean. But I allow for, let's say, one level of forgiveness, one round. But when he does that, and then I stay nice to him, then he begins, the computer model, he'll begin to take advantage more and more and more and more. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the quality of life for me would go down. I'd be the sucker, and he'd be the cheater. This has all been proven. The sooner you get it in your, nothing's a fact in science, but it's one of the most, there's Nobel Prizes on it. Okay, so tit for tat. So, reversing back to what I was talking about. If you feel that I'm paradoxical, I want you to start with thinking maybe you don't understand it. Okay? So going back to lists, if I've told you to take notes, and then you're like, Ty's that guy that says take notes, but then not take notes, and he's dumb. He's erratic. No, I'm not. I'm logical. If I come up to you and go, Kevin, there's 7 things I need to buy for me at the store. I need this kind of deodorant with no aluminum. I would like this too. What do you think you should then do? Look at me and go, I'm just taking this all in. No, take notes then. Is that above anybody's IQ to understand? And here's, there's an interesting book on very intelligent people and very successful people. And they studied all these billionaires. And they said the number one thing is they're the most paradoxical people, and you can't figure them out. And do you know why?
Nuance, understanding of nuances.
Okay.
They're able to balance two contrasting ideas.
You've read the book. It's called The Self-Made Billionaire Effect. It's a great book. So what happens is, what if Albert Einstein walked in this room and started explaining the theory of relativity? I'll tell you what I read about that. He was the only living scientist, with the exception of one other person, that could understand what Albert Einstein was saying. Him, and I forget the other guy's name. And they said even the world's top scientists, they couldn't, it was too complicated of a theory. But it was accurate, okay? So why, if Einstein came in here and he started explaining, would we all be perplexed? Guess, somebody. It's pretty simple. Or it's too complicated for us to understand. But would you go, that Einstein guy. You think energy equals mass times the constant square? Yeah, I know how the world works. The world was invented from a turtle, it gave birth to like these Indian legend. No, it's because it's easy to understand. Most societies, native societies have there was a turtle that gave birth and there was a flood and it floated and that humans come from that. And Albert Einstein's like, well, it's Stephen Hawking. If he gets up, it's like, well, the very beginning of time there was a singularity event and the universe expanded up at this constant. It's too hard for us to understand, but that's an us problem. Everybody get that? You don't default to going, who's this dude? You know who does default to that? There's a lot of people. There's studies in the United States of the amount of people who don't believe in science, but believe in, ghosts. It's like 60% of Americans believe in ghosts, and like 15% of people believe in Big Bang or something. Doesn't that sound a little cocky? The smartest people in the world, the people you'd want building your cars, your airplanes, cutting you open for heart surgery, they're like, dude, I spent 50 years studying this, and it looks like there was a big, hot event at the beginning. And people, what are you talking about? But I did hear some noises, and there's a ghost. They're not smart enough to get it. So my advice to you, anytime I've violated this, my life has progressed downhill. When I take people who have consistently shown that they're not dumb, and I default to they're dumb. So whenever I seem paradoxical to you, I'm not saying I'm not as smart as Einstein, I'm not as smart as Stephen Hawking, but I know one thing, I ain't dumb. So you might want to ask a question in this meeting. Yo, Ty, was just trying to wrap my head around this. There's a time where you said to take notes and time not to take notes. It seems a little paradoxical. And if you don't do that, what's the IF factor? It's the ipso facto. Ty said, don't take notes. Ty said, do take notes. Ipso facto, therefore, Ty's schizophrenic and not that smart. You messed up at the ipso facto, my friend. That's a you problem. You want to be smarter? You're going to have to get around people that make you uncomfortable with their ideas. Well, you want to lose weight? You better get around people that make you feel a little insecure. That's the oldest rule. Never be the smartest person in the room. I love it. When I can find people that don't know that know shit I don't know, I'm dancing around. Why do you think I do all these interviews? It's not really for YouTube. I'm interviewing, I just got a cool interview with Daniel Lieberman, the Harvard guy. You think I'm hanging out with him so I can showcase my IQ? Hell no. I remember, and the interviews I do, I remember better. I don't know anybody that remembers what smart people said more than me. I memorize them at 14 years old. I still have the note card. You guys should see my house. Note card after note card. Writing down with pen and paper. You know any other 14-year-olds that were doing that? Now, I'm not saying I'm the only person. There are other people, but so I'm only asking you to do what I do. You lead by example. I'm telling you, don't be a fool and think. When Joel Salatin says something that sounds weird to me, I don't go, what's that Joel guy ever done right? Well, I can name 10 things he's done right. When it comes to business, if I say something that's weird, just do the math. Who's made more money in business, me or you? Doesn't mean I'm infallible, but who are you going to go with first? Guess. If Arnold Schwarzenegger walks in here, he's like, you should superset all your exercises. I'm going to look at him. I'm going to look at my 13, 14-inch bicep. I'm going to look at his 22, and I'm like, let me just try to superset for a while, because maybe this joker's onto something. None of you, a lot of you are young. Pride in what you're gonna do is not allowed. How can you be if that's you, and it's a lot of you, and I've had this issue, and still, it's an ongoing human problem. There's reasons we have it. It's reasons why self-esteem exists. Dr. Buss talks about this. It's to help motivate us into the future, but you never want to be the guy or girl that gets up. It's the Mr. Universe contest. Anybody ever seen Mr. Universe? Biggest bodybuilders, they have a Mrs. Universe and a Mr. Strongest people, big bodybuilders. You don't ever want to get up there, look like me, stand in front of the judges, and they're like, what the hell are you doing here? And you go, oh, you don't know what's in this DNA? That if I would work out hard, you don't know what I'm about to look like? They're going to be like, remove this guy off the stage. So you're not allowed to be proud about all your business acumen unless you did the business. I read an interesting book recently about a guy. It's the most bloody battle in World War II Pacific history. In the Pacific, there was it's called Palau. There's more deaths and casualties than Iwo Jima. You ever heard of Iwo Jima? And everybody loved this one leader that they had. And finally he got shot in the head by a sniper. He put his head up to look, pop, sniper was waiting. He was dead. They said the whole place mourned because this dude was always leading the fight. Whenever they had to charge, and a lot of people, it was about 400 men would go in and 18 came out. That's how bloody it was. And this dude would be leading the charge. But finally, you lead the charge enough, you get killed. And he died, and they got replaced. And you know who he got replaced by, dude? And everybody hated this guy. They talked a lot about it, should we shoot him because he's going to get us killed. You know who he was? He was a dude, they were on rest, you know, R&R, where you get rest. And the guy writing the book said, I knew I was in trouble because this guy had a Colt 45, this new officer, and he was like shooting, and he was like, wait till I see those Japanese. They're like, he goes, I'm the baddest ass fighter out there. And so he asked him, oh, where you been at work? Oh, no, I haven't been in battle yet. But I know what I'm going to be like. You know what that guy actually did? True story. First battle he ever got into, he was so shell-shocked that he just got out of the foxhole and just started walking towards the enemy. Because you never know what you're like in battle. They find a lot of people who think they're going to be brave aren't, and a lot of like shy people, when it comes to the charge, they're like, fighting off. And he froze, and one person had to get out, and they had to knock him out and pull him back. Now, how do you think people felt about that guy being their leader? The man who had pride in what he had not yet done. So if any of you have that in you, and I detect that in you, you will not fit into here. I I see potential in lots of you, that's why you're here, but I don't yet respect you for the $1 million you make the money first. And then tell me your story, okay? And you can respect me for the things that I have done, and you can respect other people more than me, okay? Well, if I meet Warren Buffett, I'm not like, the company that, the 50 employees I have, we've been doing tens of millions of dollars. No, I'm not going to be that fool at that table to be proud of the $300 billion man, okay? So, this is all logic, right? It seems semi-irrefutable to me. Does anybody have a way to refute this with pure logic? Because it might be having a blind spot here. No? Okay, good. So, if I seem mean sometimes and you're like, it ain't fair, then maybe I've read a book on Tit For Tat and maybe I know more than you. Not because I'm smart, but because I said, let me download into my brain what the Nobel Prize winning Nash guy did after 50 years of research and mega supercomputers doing complex computations. Maybe I just downloaded smarter people's stuff than me and smarter than you. Have respect for the ideas, okay? So, this list here, some of you are going to be like, you shouldn't call people out publicly, Ty. I read a book on EQ. That's low EQ. But you're assuming I haven't read research that says embarrassment is one of the greatest ways to stop procrastinating. Great story. What's my Arnold Schwarzenegger story? Arnold had a lot of pride. He had the biggest chest almost in history and the biggest arms. And that's what most dudes like, right? If every guy here could have little calves, you can wear pants. Well, if you can put on a shirt and you walk in a room, you got 22-inch bicep, people are going to notice, right? Arnold was the opposite. He said, I'm embarrassed of my calves, so I only wear shorts and I wear very baggy stuff. Did it work for him? Yes. So I don't care what EQ book you read. Show me the EQ by somebody who doesn't know what they're... I'm telling you real life stuff. Being embarrassed, as long as it's not mean-spirited. I'm not writing this to be like, oh, David, fucking David. Dumbass David can't be here. I'm just going, give me the facts. Were you here or not? You can't argue with math. You know what binary means? 0 or 1. Were you sitting in the chair ready with your notes? 0 or 1. Now, there's exceptions. I am a human. If you're doing something more important, it makes sense that you're not here. So, if you're like, Ty's fucking up, maybe you're fucking up. Maybe you should try this in your life. Maybe you should try to work. Maybe if you feel a little overweight, maybe you should pull that shirt, right? Maybe you should get shirts one size too small. What would happen if you lost weight? Would you be better life or worse life? Ask a medical doctor. Or if some of you are too skinny, what would happen if you gained some weight? You think your life going to be worse or better? Everything here is about increasing knowledge, quality of life for the world and for you, income, all the things that you need. What time am I at here? Holy crap, way over. Okay. Who's doing the talk?
David.
Okay.
So today we're talking about persuasion. The Latin word is persuasio. And today's lesson is win-win. And by win-win, we mean mutual benefit. So persuading someone wants to be a mutual benefit. So they win and we win by the persuasion. Whether we're selling someone, they get equal value and we get value as well. A good example is when a baby's crying. The baby's crying, it wants something, and say it's food. We give the baby food, it stops crying. It's a win-win for both. No more crying baby. Our ears are happy. When we're persuading someone to come into the program, say it's the money program, they're getting, say it's just the money program, they're getting the value by learning Ty's expertise on money. They also get a support system that supports them, 24-hour, almost 24-hour customer support. They get a coach or guide that helps walk them through the process. And if it's a win-win, they buy. If it's not a win-win, they're probably more apt not to buy. So if we can do a win-win, when we always persuade, and if it's more benefit for them, we get happier customers or longer customers. So when we're on the phone today, if we're trying to save a refund or trying to persuade somebody into buying something, let's think, is it a benefit for them? And is it a benefit for us to have them in our company? Are we going to get a good testimonial from them? Are they going to be happy by the product? And if it's a win-win, then cool, we can sell them. That's a win-win. Does anyone have any questions or examples of win-wins that they have seen?
Good. That was a good time. 1 point. I mean, 1 time, and you gave 1 solid point, win-win. So follow, that's $10. Follow, put that in the thing. Questions. Always should have questions. The smartest people in the world are not born that way. They're the most curious. So you need to have questions. I don't want this to be a mute group of people. It should be always different people.
Right?
Do you know the definitions of what persuasive in Latin means?
Elegant? Eloquent?
Eloquent.
Yeah, that's what I found. I found different, like there was persuasio and then there was some other word, but the majority was persuasio. Elegant.
Elegant?
Elegant.
Oh,
What's
eloquent.
eloquent? I think it's elegant.
Well spoken.
Well spoken?
Yeah, elegant is very different.
Yeah.
Elegant is like a vogue dress or something.
If you were to get somebody to get into the persuasion, and then you both, there was a mutual agreement for both of them, it's for you and the customer to both do it, like actually get it going, and then later on they end up regretting it, how would you turn that into a win-win?
Well, I'd find out what their regret was and address that and see how we can provide a win-win scenario for that. So maybe they thought it was lacking content, then maybe a win-win for them would talk to Ty. Or maybe more support, maybe they needed some more guidance in it. So whatever their root issue was, identifying their root and then providing a win-win scenario for that.
One more question. Someone new that's never asked a question. Dawn.
Is there such thing as lose-win sometimes?
Yeah, there is. If I
Recite
persuaded
the
you,
question so that,
if there's a lose-win, so there's different scenarios. So there's lose-win where I lose, they win. So if this paddle was like $1,000, I sold it for 100, he wins. Or there's lose-win if I sold him something or persuaded him to do something where he got in trouble, but I look like
Let me
a
stop you for 1 second.
great person.
I'm going to give you guys, I'm really going to make you guys good speakers. And you're a good speaker, I'm going to make you even better. You need to give badass example. So take an extra second and think of a better one than the ping pong. Because I'll tell you, I'm going to do what I would say. Lose-win situation. I'm going to give you an example. A bank robber. A bank robber comes, gets the money in the bank, and gave nothing in return and possibly killed people on the way. Another example is a fast food company. It's not as bad as a bank because they give you some carbohydrates, which can keep you alive. But you give your money, $7, let's say for a meal, $5. You got maybe a temporarily step forward of being full, but your health degraded. So you went 1 step forward and 3 steps back, but McDonald's went purely forward because they make a lot of profit. Okay, you need to give examples like that. This will make, and you got to do these on the fly. They're harder. Is that easier to understand than maybe the paddle one?
So more of a story.
But it's got to be a story that doesn't take, people are cognitive misers.
Yeah.
So you guys got to get good at it. All you guys answer refunds, this is the process. So, okay.